Very good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Asian Vision Dialogue. Today's topic is about China Global Security Initiative, and it's our great pleasure and honor to be joined by Mr. CHANG Jian. He's a Minister Counselor and Deputy Chief of Mission from the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Cambodia. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jian to our program. Greetings, Mr. Chang.
Good afternoon. And it's really a great privilege to visit the AVI and to talk to the Asian Vision Dialogue again. Since we talked last time about the GSI, China has published a new concept paper on the GSI. So it's really, I'm glad that I have this opportunity to talk to that dialogue and share some of my observations and views on matters of interest.
Yes, thank you once again for accepting our invitation. So, as everyone, I think today people have talked a lot about the security issues. Yes, and ranging from like climate change, COVID-19, food and energy security to cyberspace and technology risk. And of course, we are knowing that the GSI, or the Global Security Initiative, have been introduced for quite a while, since April last year.
Yes.
Yeah, but we are delighted to know more. Sometimes something that we don't realize. So it's our great honor to have a constructive discussion today with you.
Actually, the GSI is going to be about 1 year old. It was first put forward by President Xi Jinping last April, in April 2022, at the World Forum for Asia in his keynote speech. At the very core, at the very center of the GSI, there were 6 commitments. Those 6 commitments are commitments to a comprehensive, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable vision of security, of respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all the countries and non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries, of abiding by the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, and of taking the legitimate security concerns of all the countries seriously, of peacefully resolve differences and disputes through dialogue and consultation, and of maintaining security in both traditional and non-traditional security issues. So that was the GSI at the very beginning when it was put forward. And now 1 year on, that our phase is continuing to undergo profound changes. And we are seeing many new challenges. And as we can see, there's the Cold War mentality, not to mention the conflicts. There's double standards, bloc confrontation, and the abuse of unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction, and the pursuit of some countries' absolute security at the expense of others. So under such circumstances, recently China published this new concept paper, which fleshes out, including but not limited to, 20 priority areas of cooperation, and platforms and mechanisms that are available tools and vehicles. So this is a action-oriented concept paper that it endorses the central role of the United Nations in the security governance of the world. It advocates the coordination and sound interactions between the major countries for strategic stability towards peaceful coexistence, overall stability, and balanced development. It promotes the peaceful settlement of hotspot issues through dialogue and consultation, and it effectively addresses the traditional and the non-traditional security issues and promotes the enhancement of global security governance and capacity building. So this new concept paper offers new platforms and fields of cooperation on the basis of the GSI. And as one can see, that though the GSI itself and the concept paper are new initiatives and new concept paper, but many of the concepts and the values and principles have long been held by countries like China, Cambodia, and other countries with independent and peaceful foreign policies that favors dialogue, partnership, and win-win cooperation instead of confrontation, military blocs, and zero-sum rivalries.
All right, that's great. Yeah, so we have known that the GSI is not only about defense. Yes, as you have mentioned, it's also like about the food, climate, supply chains, the internet, trade, and energy. Yes. So can you elaborate further on this? Yes.
Actually, this concept paper is all about providing the new channels and new platforms, possibilities and mechanisms of cooperation for all the countries in the world. There are a number of principles, a number of highlights of this GSI. It's about respect and equality. It is about the openness and inclusiveness. It is about genuine multilateralism, built upon what I've said just now, extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. And also, it is about mutual benefits and coordination and sustainability. So, in short, the GSI is about security for all through a holistic approach in a cooperative spirit, and is morally and logically sound and promotes development. So, security and development, they are really indivisible. So, in the 20 or so spheres of cooperation specifies in the new concept paper, there are fields that support the UN-centric role. There are many of the regional platforms of cooperation for regional issues, and like the peaceful use, also like the peaceful use of nuclear. Those more in the traditional security field, but also there are many areas in the non-traditional security areas. For example, biosecurity, public health, food and energy security, outer space, transnational crimes, climate change, and also about the security governance of AI, artificial intelligence. As we have seen recently, the ChatGPT is extremely popular these days, and with all of the potentials and promises that these new technologies provide, there might also be the aspect of challenges that we need to govern together. When referring to security, many people tend to think about the build-up of armaments, about hardwares, about some countries working against others or guarding against others, but not exactly. With all these non-traditional security issues, there are plenty of fields that we can all work together as friends and partners, so that we can bring about a better future together. So security is as soft as it is hard. It's as individual as it is national and international. So with this new concept paper, we fleshes out the many prospects and fields of cooperation that we can work together, and also offers platforms and mechanisms that we can use. But that is not the limit or the limitation. The other countries can pick and choose, and not only national entities, but also think tanks like the AVI. We all have a lot to work together and explore together how we can bring about this shared universal security for everyone that benefits everyone.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jian. So it's really interesting to know more about the GSI. Just want to understand whether there's any relevance between the new initiative with the existing initiative like BRI, Belt Road Initiative.
Yes.
Is there connected between GSI and BRI?
And thank you for asking that. And actually, it is indivisible between security and development. For all the security arrangements and architecture to be solid and functioning, it has to be morally sound, logically sound, and also has to be economically viable. Because if there is no development, there will be poverty, there will be extremism, and the security cannot be guaranteed. So you mentioned the BRI. The BRI is becoming 10 years old this year. It was first put forward by President Xi Jinping 10 years ago, first intended as a initiative for investment and trade and infrastructure development along the ancient trade routes, both on land and at sea. Now it is already a global platform of development. Had so many partners and so many successful projects. Say, for example, in Cambodia, there is the Phnom Penh Sihanoukville Expressway, and I'm sure you've already driven or traveled on it. It's really sweet like a charm. And also in our region, there is the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, as well as the China-Laos and Thailand railway, which if we have followed closely, there is the agreement between China and Cambodia that in the future, there is the possibility that the railway will connect to Cambodia. And the BRI is not only about roads and bridges and ports and railways, and also about things like electricity, which is bears on people's everyday life. I've read a report saying that Chinese projects account for about 70% of installed power capacity here in Cambodia, and 80% of all the power generated. Like maybe the power in this room actually come from a Chinese invested or cooperative projects. So these are meant to provide common development for all the countries in this region and around the world, so that there can be solid basis for security. And in addition to the BRI, there's also the GDI. We are talking about the GSI, and now there was the GDI, which is a elder twin brother of the GSI. It was put forward by President Xi Jinping in September 2021 at the 76th UNGA, the UN General Assembly. So at the very core of the GDI, there were a number of principles, like prioritize on development, a people-centered approach, benefits for all, innovation-driven, harmony between human and nature, and result-oriented actions. And it has received the support from over 100 countries and organizations in the world, including the UN. And there is also the Friends of the GDI group, of which Cambodia is a leading member. So these are public goods China offers, both on the development side and on the security side. And those are the public goods that we offered for the international community, for all the willing members that wants to build on these initiatives towards a greater and better future.
Oh, yes. Yes, once again, I'm really thankful for the government of China for the substantial support to the Cambodia development. Yes, we really appreciate that. And anyway, when we talk about GSI, yes, we also it's about global security initiative. Yes. It's about global. So we want to know in more detail from your, if you can tell us about, do you think that the impact the interaction between the world superpower on the small and middle states?
Yes. Yes. As we've discussed last time, there's always the distinction between facts and perception. This dialogue is conducted in English. So we are speaking the English language, so many of the expressions, ideas, are actually borrowed from the West. Sometimes, are they facts or are they perceptions dressed up as facts and sold to us? So there is the perception, and some people live on the anxieties created by this perception that there is superpower rivalry everywhere, particularly in our part of the world, and small and medium-sized countries are actually under the pressure of taking sides. Well, at least there is such perception out there. But the fact is, have you ever heard China calling itself a superpower? All power. We never do that. China doesn't consider itself to be a superpower, nor do we entertain any interest to be a superpower and what it means literally. What we want is development for all, security for all, and we look at the world as if it is a community with a shared future. So that is how we look at security matters, how we look at development matters. So the choice between one superpower or the other, that is a false dichotomy. The real choice is not between one country or the other. but the real choice for every country is a future which is built on common, comprehensive, cooperative and sustainable security that has the best interests of all the countries at heart, that we look at each other as opportunities and partners, and an alternative reality and future that is built upon the game theory and vehement rivalry, where one country's gain is another country's loss and peril. Yes. So China resolutely chooses the first one. So now many people actually refer to the word, this geopolitical word like Indo-Pacific. And but we won't be boxed in by such a perception, because China is the biggest trading partner of 120, 130 countries in the world. Our interests are global, and our visions are global, and hence all these global initiatives. And for medium and small-sized countries, it will help to be daring to dream big. And being partners in the GDI, the GSI, will carry the interests and voices of countries like Cambodia global, and make your voices loud and be heard. So China is resolved to offer all these public goods to the entire world, to willing partners. And we wish to empower every country through the approach of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. And we also offer the additional resources. In the concept paper, China offers 5,000 training opportunities in the next 5 years in the specific field of security, global security. So at the very end of the day, for every country being able to follow its own path of choice, reaching their full potentials with help and assistance and cooperation from partners, is by far a stronger pillar of common development and universal security than any superpower can ever dream to be. And that brings us to our topic of our global initiatives and the community with a shared future.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jian. I think it's a very comprehensive and insightful discussion for today. Due to time constraint, I think we have to come to the end of the dialogue. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, for your participation and your kind contribution for our dialogue. I look forward to having you in the near future. Yes.
Thank you. Anytime.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the Asian Vision Dialogue has now come to an end. Thank you for watching. See you next time.